I once saved an alien girl's life. Now she faces me as their queen commander. Jake Miller stood frozen on the bridge of his ship as the massive alien vessel appeared on their screens. The sleek silver craft was 3 times larger than any human ship he had ever seen. Its surface gleamed with strange symbols that seemed to pulse with their own light. 5 years had passed since that day on the remote planet Kepler-7. 5 years since he had found her bleeding in the wreckage of her crashed scout ship. A young alien woman with pale blue skin and silver hair who spoke no human language but whose eyes held intelligence and fear in equal measure. Amy Rodriguez, his second-in-command, stepped beside him. Her face was pale as she read the "Incoming transmission, Commander. They are requesting permission to board. They say their queen wishes to speak with you personally." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. He remembered those violet eyes, those delicate features marred by cuts and burns from the crash. He had risked everything to save her, going against direct orders to avoid contact with alien species. His medical team had worked for hours to stabilize her unique physiology. When she had finally awakened 3 days later, she had looked at him with such gratitude that it transcended language barriers. She had pressed a small crystal pendant into his palm before her rescue ship arrived. The pendant still hung around his neck, hidden beneath his uniform. "Permission." "Granted," Jake said, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. "Prepare the main docking bay." The alien queen entered with a retinue of 6 guards. Their armor was unlike anything in human military databases, flowing like liquid metal yet clearly protective. The queen herself wore robes of deep purple that seemed to shift and change color as she moved. But it was her face that made Jake step back in recognition. The same violet eyes, the same delicate bone structure. The young, frightened girl he had saved was now a regal figure radiating authority and power. Her silver hair was longer now, woven with threads of gold that caught the light. A crown of crystalline material rested on her brow. "Your Majesty," Jake said, offering a formal bow. She stepped forward, and for a moment her royal composure slipped, revealing a flash of the vulnerable girl he had known, Commander Miller. She said, her English perfect, though accented with musical tones, "I have traveled far to find you." The guards remained perfectly still, but Jake could feel their attention focused on every movement he made. Amy and his security team stood ready nearby, their hands resting on their weapons. "I never forgot what you did for me," the Queen continued. "You saved my life when you had every reason to leave me to die. Your people and mine were enemies then. You risked your career, your freedom to help a stranger." Jake nodded slowly. "I could not leave anyone to die regardless of species." The Queen smiled, and it transformed her entire face, making her look younger, more like the girl he remembered. "That is exactly what I hoped you would say." She turned to address his crew. "You serve under a man of rare honor. His actions 5 years ago prevented a war between our peoples." She reached into her robes and withdrew an ornate data crystal. "My father, the previous king, died believing humans were a threat to be eliminated. I was to be his weapon of vengeance. But your commander showed me that humans possess something my people had forgotten: compassion without expectation of reward." Jake felt the weight of every eye in the room. "Upon my return, I convinced our High Council to delay military action. I have spent 5 years learning your language, your culture, preparing for this moment." Amy stepped forward, her hand still on her sidearm. "What do you want from us?" The Queen turned her violet gaze to Amy. "I want to offer you something unprecedented, a formal alliance between our species. Your technology combined with our resources could benefit both our peoples greatly." But Jake sensed there was more. She was holding something back, just as she had that day on Kepler-7 when she had pressed the pendant into his palm. "There is something else," Jake said quietly. The Queen nodded, her expression growing serious. "There are others among my people who still believe in the old ways. They see this alliance as weakness. They have demanded proof that humans are worthy partners." "What kind of proof?" Amy asked suspiciously. The Queen looked directly at Jake. "A trial by combat. Your champion against ours. If you win, the alliance stands. If you lose, my people return to the path of war." The bridge fell silent. Jake could hear the hum of the ship's engines, the soft beep of monitoring systems. His crew looked at him, waiting for his decision. "I volunteer," Jake said without hesitation. "Commander, no." Amy protested. "You cannot. I have no choice." Jake replied. "The future of both species hangs in the balance." The Queen stepped closer, her eyes searching his face. "You would do this even knowing you might die?" Jake touched the pendant beneath his uniform. "I saved your life once, Your Majesty. If this is what it takes to save both our peoples, then yes." The Queen nodded solemnly. "Then it is decided. The trial will take place on neutral ground in 7 days. Prepare yourself, Commander. The fate of 2 worlds rests in your hands." As the alien delegation prepared to leave, the Queen lingered for a moment at Jake's side. "Thank you," she whispered so quietly only he could hear. For everything, Jake watched her go, knowing that in 7 days he would face an unknown enemy for the future of humanity. The frightened girl he had saved had become a queen, but she was still fighting for peace in her own way. The pendant felt heavier around his neck as he began to prepare for the trial that would determine whether humans and her people would be allies or enemies. Time would tell if his compassion would save 2 species or doom them both.